The Chicago Bears have been a focus for some people because of their massive trade to move on from the number one overall pick, but they have done a lot of great moves in free agency as well that I don't think people have really given enough focus to. Starting out, there was the biggest move they've made, which was Tremaine Edmonds, who got paid like an elite linebacker, which seems a bit risky considering this past year was his first year being a true stud at linebacker, but I'm okay with that because linebacker is traditionally a position that takes a while to develop at, and I'm more inclined to think that Edmonds, who has all of the athletic tools and has shown great instinctual plays this past year, can put it together and be a consistently great linebacker moving forward. Additionally, the move makes so much more sense when you consider that they traded away Roquan Smith for a second round pick, and this past year, Edmonds was better than Roquan. And I think that Eberflus will especially be able to get the talent out of Edmonds because he is athletically similar to Shaq Leonard, who was another very long athletic linebacker. And Edmonds also has the coverage ability that Leonard just doesn't really have. So I'm fine with the signing. I think they got a better linebacker than Roquan, and they saved money, believe it or not, even though free agency is typically an overpay. They also stay young. So I think there's a lot to like with that signing. Believe it or not, though, that was actually my second favorite linebacker signing, as TJ Edwards at $6.5 million per year seems illegal to me because he has graded out exceptionally well in the past 3 years according to PFF grade, and he's done it in a way that doesn't seem fluky at all. He's been great in coverage, he's been a stout run defender, he's been a really good tackler. There's not really much you can poke at with him. So the fact he's being paid $13 million less than Edmonds almost, or rather $13.5 million less than Roquan, is just insane to me because I think TJ Edwards is a premier linebacker. No matter how you slice it, though, the addition of Edmonds and Edwards is incredibly good for the Bears because they went from a linebacker core that had no one to two bona fide stars, and that's a transition that few teams could match in all of free agency. Another move I loved was DeMarcus Walker, the edge rusher slash defensive lineman from Tennessee, for just $3.5 million per year. He is a complete underpay because really it's so nice to have a guy that has that positional versatility, especially when the defensive line is not great, which is still the case for Chicago. And in addition to that, he's really going to open up their stunt game because he has enough speed to him that he can come through on stunts, but he also has a ton of power that he can be a pusher for the stunts that opens up other players. Lastly, for their defensive shakeup, though, there's Andrew Billings, who was a under the radar signing, as no one really cares about nose tackles, and they especially don't care when they're signed for about $3 million and for just 1 year. But he is going to really make a difference in their run defense. And he's also a actually competent pusher, as he can get push in the pocket and force the quarterback to not really be able to step up in the pocket. He's not going to be getting pressure too much on his own, but he's going to be able to help the other rushers get in, and that has value as well. But really, with how poor their run defense was this past year, I think his value is just going to be so great, whether it goes noticed on the stat sheet or even the eye test for most, either. All that for a 1 year deal that doesn't really impact the cap at all, because really 3 million is about as small of a contract as you're going to get for anybody anyways. I think it's a great signing, which just continues their trend of great value signings that are really going to make a difference for their poor defense. Lastly, shifting over to offense, I think another Titan they brought in, Nate Davis, is really going to make a difference on their offensive line, and he could actually be the missing piece, so to speak, for a really improved offensive line from last year to this upcoming year. Because if Cody Whitehair can get past his snapping issue that plagued him and forced him to move to guard, they're going to have a ton of great run blockers and enough pass protection that Justin Fields should be able to have time in the pocket and clear running lanes as a rusher. So I think they really have something brewing, that they're not just going to have skill position players such as, DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney. They're going to have an offensive line with that as well. And that's really exciting, because though Justin Fields might not be at that Lamar Jackson level as a rusher, he's not too far off either. And that's going to be really exciting to see how the offensive line, that I think is underrated, will perform. And they're going to still have those wide receivers that can get open. So offensively, their success will really just come down to if Justin Fields can speed up his processing a little bit and hit the open guy in a timely fashion while still making those splashy plays that only he and, 5 or less quarterbacks in the world can do. So there's a lot to be excited for moving forward with Chicago. And I wouldn't bet on them making the playoffs this upcoming year, but they do play in a weak NFC and an open NFC North. So I think they're really going to be in position to improve substantially from this past year to this upcoming year. So I would be buying stock in the Chicago Bears. That's my thoughts on them, though. Be sure to let me know what yours are, and also please be sure to subscribe.